and I worked in Procter & Gamble back in Pakistan, so I saved up some money from there. So that kind of helped me move here, pay for school, pay for housing. And then I was very lucky that during school I landed a TA-ship that led to a part-time job that led to me paying for I had some money coming in. So because when you come here as an immigrant, there's a ton of pressure on you to make it work. You don't want to ask your parents for money. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. So you just like grind it out. You find a job, you get some money coming in so you can pay for rent, because the point of shame is like your parents already put so much money into sending you here that you're like, oh, mom, dad, I ran out of cash. Can you loan me some more money? And they're like, what?
Have you ever wondered what it's like to leave behind every single thing you know and start a new life in a foreign country? From my experience, it can be a struggle. On the Newcomers Podcast, I'll be sharing my story as well as the stories of other immigrants. We'll be talking about the joys and struggles of starting afresh. My name is Dozier, and I'm looking forward to being your host. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Newcomers Podcast, where I chat with immigrants like myself. I mean, I call you newcomers, but today I have a 12-year-old newcomer with me. Like, Kamil has been in Canada for like 12 years.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you came here as a student, and then you're not running an agency. Like, that is amazing. Looking at your journey, I think I'll just dive straight into one question I always ask. I see people talking about if you're a first-gen immigrant, dealing with survival mentality. Like, what's your take on that? Like, how do you deal with the fact that you're just trying to survive instead of saying, can I build something that goes beyond myself as an immigrant?
Oh, that's a very loaded question. So I was fortunate enough to have parents that had economic means, and I worked in Procter & Gamble back in Pakistan, so I saved up some money from there. So that kind of helped me move here, pay for school, pay for housing. And then I was very lucky that during school I landed a TA-ship that led to a part-time job that led to me paying for I had some money coming in. So because when you come here as an immigrant, there's a ton of pressure on you to make it work. You don't want to ask your parents for money. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. So you just like grind it out. You find a job, you get some money coming in so you can pay for rent, because the point of shame is like your parents already put so much money into sending you here that you're like, oh, mom, dad, I ran out of cash. Can you loan me some more money? And they're like, what? So like, I was very fortunate in that sense that I didn't, I struggled in different ways, but I didn't have to struggle I was never unemployed. Let me say that way. So like, I never had the time where I was like, I don't know where my next meal is coming from. I don't know if I have money to pay for rent, because the part-time job then led to a full-time job. And I've been working since then, and I've been paying my own expenses. But yeah, like, you just want to get a roof on your head. You just get you start driving taxis or whatever, because as a newcomer, it's also like, oh, I have a PhD in mathematics from Pakistan, but they're like, well, it's from Pakistan. It doesn't really count. So you're like, nobody kind of gives you that. Like, I've met so many people who are like, oh, I can't get a job because I don't have Canadian experience. And I'm like, it's a chicken and egg problem. How can you have Canadian experience when nobody hires you in the first place?
Yeah.
And I hate that. So I kind of went down that path. I fell into tech startups, marketing. I did that for a long time. I was fortunate enough to have some money. I had good income coming in. My wife, girlfriend at the time, now my wife, was also fortunate enough to have some money. So we were never in that. We weren't well off, but we weren't like below the poverty. We were like, okay. We had a small apartment we were paying rent for, and like we managed to buy a small car, and like we had some family support to fall back on in case shit completely went sideways. But I'm not from a well-off family in Pakistan. We're solidly middle class. My dad is an academic. My mom is a housewife. They come from a small village in Peshawar. My mom never went to school. It was very important for her to like, everybody gets an education, goes to school. And my oldest sister was actually came to Canada 20 years ago. So I had that, when I came here, I lived with her. Like, I used to live in London. I used to take the Greyhound to Waterloo every morning at 6 a.m. to go for classes, and then take the Greyhound back at 6 p.m. for 2 hours to go back to her house, because that's where I was living with my nephews and my sister for the first 3-4 months that I came to Canada. So that was a big help, because if I had landed here and I had nobody here, I would have lost my fucking mind. Like, sorry, I don't know if I can say it.
That's okay. That's okay.
But like, that was an incredible help. And like, my sister was here, so she had settled, she had a network, she had she had like lots of friends, and she helped me plug into that, the ecosystem. Otherwise, if I was like, I can't imagine being like here by myself, nobody that I know, and just like, especially in the winters, it's like depressing.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate enough that like, my sister was here. I got into Waterloo for my master's. So like, school kind of gives you that network and grounding as well, because you meet other people like you who are from Iran, who are from Pakistan, who are from Nigeria, who are from South America, who are from Uruguay, and they're all like kind of figuring it out as they go. So like that, I think that created like a good bond for us.
I keep seeing this theme when I talk to a lot of immigrants, especially like people like you who came in as students, where they say that, you know, like coming in as a student is a huge advantage, because it kind of gives you people like you who are finding their way and just going on along that journey.
And I think you're at that age where you're open to new experiences and new people. When you're a student, like, you bond over shared experiences. You're doing school projects together, and you're struggling with some exams, and like, you have that shared experience. I think when you come as under the skilled working class thing, where you come here as, I think it's a different dynamic, because you're in a professional setting. You're expected to have your shit together all the time. You're expected to do a job. But as a student, you can be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And everybody like, I don't know what I'm doing either. And like, everybody kind of bonds over that.
That's super powerful, because I mean, I came as a skilled worker, and I know that I feel that pressure where you just come in and you just need to get going. There's no time for you to try and fail.
Especially if you come with a family.
Because like, we came with a kid, and my wife was pregnant when we landed. Like, you just need to just get going, get a house. Like, you know, just you can't fail, or else you look at the little one and you're like, he's not gonna go hungry. He doesn't care. You brought him here yourself.
So I came when I was 26, or I don't know. I'm like 38 now, so like 26 or something. So I didn't have family, kids, you know, none of that pressure. So it was just me. And even if I'm making like, I can rent a room for $400 and I can live in that room in the basement, I don't care. Like, it's a room that I can live in. But if I was with my family, I don't want to put my family in the same room.
You know, I'm just curious. Like, so do you have any friends who came like you, who didn't have the kind of support you had, like just having a community, like having a sister who was who already knew the system? Do you have any friends like that? Can you talk a bit about what they went through?
From high school that came here as a skilled worker 3 years ago with his family, and it was hard. Like, he had trouble finding like a proper job, so he did like some minimum wage work just to like pay rent. And then like slowly now he works as a CRA, and like he's pretty comfortable. He actually moved to Calgary recently as well, and he has a third kid on the way. But like, now they're kind of settled 2-3 years into it. And he was fortunate that he had a certain skill set, and he was smart, and he like made the effort. I think the other thing is like, when you come here, the way it works back home is very different than the way it works here. Like, how you find a job here in Canada, it's all about networking, meeting people, referrals. And back in Pakistan, it's like, you go to the website, you apply, and you just apply. And like, you know, it's like a big, you know. So like, whenever I have another friend who came, who I met for a coffee, he was in my undergrad university. He was also like, he's like, I'm here with my family, and I don't have a job. Like, what do I do? Like, I have some savings, but the savings are only going to last me like 3 months, 6 months. I'm like, just get the first job you can get your foot in the door. And then eventually, when you have that baseline of like, you're working some job that's paying some rent, then you have that comfort level to think about, okay, I'm out of that survival mode. Now I can think about, okay, what do I actually want to do? But otherwise, it's very like, you just like, I have 6 months. I see my rent is $1,500 a month, and my savings are like getting depleted every month. Like, I need to get some money coming in.
Yeah, that survival mode stuff is hard. And just curious, and like, because I don't even have the answer to that, is, do you think that we ever get out of it? Like, even though when you get a better job,
I don't think so.
Right?
I don't think so. I think it's I don't want to get too economic, philosophical, political, whatever, but I think it's just a capitalist system that we live in. That you always want more. You always want more money. You want a bigger house. You want a bigger car. You want a second car. You're always in that rat race for like promotions. And I think in a way, like for me, the motivation is to leave something for my kids. So like it comes from that place. But in some cases, like even in that context, I'm stuck in that. Like even though I own a business now, I want to make the business bigger. I want to get, I want to grow the business. So like, I think it's partially because like in Pakistan, for example, if you are unemployed, you still have your family to fall back on. You can go, hey dad, like I need to, they're like, okay, yeah, we have a big house. You come, go back to your old room. Your wife and kids can live with us too. We have a spare basement, whatever. It's fine. I think here you're kind of like, it's very individual based. Like it's very individualistic society. So like you have nobody to, like there is the social safety net of like EI and government and all that stuff, but I don't think you have that community to fall back on. So you're always just trying to move forward.
Now that we're talking about individual versus the collective, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing that really hits me as an immigrant to someone who moves across is that, like we were talking about before the show started, where we say, someone says, how are you doing? But it's just...
They don't actually mean that.
Yeah. You're not supposed to answer that question. Like, or the one that I really struggle with is, I think it's polite, it's cool. You look at someone, the person looks at you and the person smiles.
Yeah.
I used to make the mistake that the smile was oh, hi. No, the smile is just
acknowledgement.
And then, yeah, exactly. And the face clams up almost immediately. And then I'm like, oh, wait. I'm trying to understand what you went on here.
Yeah.
And I can imagine Pakistan is very much like back home in Nigeria too. Very communal, very big family.
Come over for dinner, have some tea. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, like moving here at 26, like that's pretty young, early in your career, early in your life. Like how have you navigated that journey just moving across?
So it's a funny story. There's a lot of things I love about Pakistan, but I never quite fit in. So I was always a bit different. So I don't know why. My mom used to always call me her Gora Bacha, which means my white kid. Because she's like, you're not like even in high school, I just wanted different things out of life. I love the community stuff. I think there's pros and cons to it. And here it's more individual, which makes more lonely. I think people don't have kids early in life, they have them later in life, and that's another thing that we can talk about. But like in a way it was like I missed a lot of that, because you just show up to somebody's house and they're like, my friend like, hey, I'm coming over, and my mom like, oh, I'll just make dinner for your friend too, like he's part of, they come to your house, they go to your fridge, they grab whatever they want, and they're just like part of the family. Here it's like the house is a sacred space. Like you're polite to somebody, you're like, hey, okay, yeah, but you like make them outside for a coffee. You don't really invite them over to your house. Like you don't know your neighbors. Like in Pakistan, like you know everybody's neighbors, and like you know this person and what their son does, and like you know that person, and they we moved to Vancouver now, but in Toronto, like we had that we would struggle with that a lot, especially having kids now. So like when it was just my wife and I, it was like, we go to work, we make money, we come home, we're too tired. We have some friends we go out on the weekend with. Okay, fine. With kids, you want the kids to grow up with friends and like have that sense of community around them. And like Toronto, we really struggled with that. In Vancouver, I find it better, even though it's a really expensive city to live in. There's more immigrants, there are more first-time immigrants, there are more people from Asia, from Latin America, from India, from Pakistan. So like there's more people like you, and we've found a little bit of that sense of community. But it's like, during COVID, we were in Toronto and it was like, what if both of us got COVID? Who's going to take care of the kids? Like, we were lucky that we had some close friends that we could call and like they could take the kids for a few hours. But like, it's not like you can just leave them somewhere, right? For like, if we had our parents around, we could just be like, hey, just take them for 2 days. We can't deal with them anymore, Well, I guess just you. Like, if it's not you, who else is gonna be? So,
Yeah. You know, there's something you said that your mom used to call you. I'm curious. So, when you're in Pakistan, there was, here's the white kid. When you moved down to Canada, did you ever miss those things that you were like, oh, I don't really like them? You know how it is when you move to Canada now. And did you miss those things that you didn't really like when you were back home?
Yeah. I miss the noisiness, the hustle bustle, the just people everywhere, like just people talking. People like Pakistan has changed quite a bit. I don't think Pakistan is the same that it was when I was growing up. But like, I used to be out till sunset in the park playing cricket, and my mom knew that it's okay. She knew that I was with my friends and like, I'll come home for dinner. We don't have that culture here, right? Like, my kids go out, I need to like, where are they going? Who are they with? I'm going to go to the park with them. We can't just let them go on their own. I miss that a lot. I think it was like a different time growing up, right? We didn't have the internet. We didn't have phones. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. All the kids would just gather on the street and play cricket or play something. And like all the neighborhood kids would like hang out together. Especially because I'm still in touch I still talk to a lot of the friends I have. Like, we grew up together from like grade 1 all the way to university. We have that lot of history, and like, they know my family. I know their family. I know their grandfather and like their cousins and aunts and uncles. And like, that's a lot of that stuff is missing here, because here it's all about the individual and like you as a person. And there that's about like your family. But there's also negatives, right? Like, there's a lot of negatives associated when you have, when you're too family centered, sometimes you lose yourself and you have to do what the family says, even though you don't want to do it. There's all these unsaid expectations and baggage that comes with a big family. And like, I want to, pursue a different career. No, the family has always done this thing, right? So like, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, people don't say that about, or we don't like to talk about that part of the communal life. We just try to talk about the good things, but it does have the part that we don't like. Like,
sometimes like the collective comes at an expense of the individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's funny because I came across this passage in a book. I forgot the name of the book. It's by this lady called, I think, The Life and Death of Great American Cities.
Oh, I know that book. Yeah.
And it talks about that at some point. This American cities were like, they had this communal thing in a way where the kids were raised to know that the adults around them had to take care of them somehow. And that way, the kids learn stuff from the adults just because, they learned how to live in the city, how to navigate stuff, what you need to do here. And it feels like, the West has lost a bit of that. But I will also worry, it looks like that thing is spreading across the world. Because, when we all talk about how we grew up, and then you look back home, like if I think of Nigeria now, and how kids are being raised in Nigeria, it's almost similar to this in a bit where, the house is a sacred place. Nobody comes there. It's just you and the family. Maybe every now and then a friend comes. Every other thing, let's do it outside the house. Like, let's go out.
Part of it is urbanization too. Like, I think, especially in Pakistan, we grew up my parents grew up in a small village, but now that village is not a village anymore. It's turned into it's a mix of like slums and skies. You know what? Like, everybody wants to move to the city for better jobs. And I think like it's a global economic movement of people and money, and like there's just that global shift happening. And I think like when you live in a condo, it's very different than when you live in a village. So like, I think the public spaces are starting to go away. There's not so much, you can't go on the street and play cricket anymore because there's just too many cars and motorcycles. Like, it's a safety hazard now.
Yeah.
I think there's that stuff has to do a lot with it, like just the economic globalization, urbanization thing. I definitely, and I also think like there's a bit of, I want to call it cultural imperialism.
It's a sensitive topic.
But like there's a lot of importing of culture. I think there's good stuff we can, like my part of the world, there's so much good stuff we can learn from Canada, the US, Europe, whatever. but there's also that negative, and I think both things are,
it's a very sensitive topic because anytime I discuss it with friends, I think one of them will ask me, "But you moved there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I moved there." He's like, "So you have no right to say that some of the stuff that they're bringing down over here is not good." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a very sensitive topic." Now, I want to kind of go back in time. What did you think Canada was going to be like before you moved? And then what was it really like for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it was a lot like what I would expect, except that I struggled with the cultural stuff. Like, I did struggle a lot with that in terms of like, people are just being polite. They don't need to know your life story, you know? Like, when somebody says, "Hey, how's it going?" You don't tell them, "Oh my God, I just lost my job and I'm going to be homeless." You just say, "Oh yeah, I'm good. How are you?" Like, it's just a polite thing to ask. I also think the pleasant thing was, like, in Pakistan, like, people don't respect lines, systems, organization. Like, if you have to line up for something, nobody lines up. Everybody's just trying to jam in, and like, it's like, I'm like, just like, you know, like, oh my God, just line up. Like, no, yeah, like, there's that. Like, I'm really, like, when I was applying for my student visa from Pakistan, I had to like get a police clearance certificate from Pakistan. And I went to like, so my family and we are raised by like, do the right thing, you know, walk the straight line. I'm like, I'm gonna go, this is my paperwork, give me the certificate. They're like, "Oh no, we can't do blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go to," they sent me to another place, they sent me to another, like for 2 weeks, I was just trying to get that done and they kept like putting me in a loop. And then finally I realized they just want some money. Like, they want me to give them some money so they can get that stamp. I'm like, I do not want to do that. Like, I will never do that. I will never do that. But eventually they wore me down so much. I'm like, just fucking take the money, give me the stamp so I can just be on my way. Right? Like, and in Canada, like, there's a system, right? You go to Service Camp Ontario, you get your paperwork, you go there, you get your paperwork. Nobody's trying to like, there's people lined up. Like, it's more, I don't know how to say it, but like, nobody's trying to screw you over.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. The government is more stable. There's more political stability, but it's also, there's cultural stuff around like how us immigrants expect it to be and how it actually is in terms of the people, in terms of the way people are with each other, the social norms that we have here, like unspoken. So like I struggle with that a lot. Like, you're not supposed, I don't know, I can't think of anything, but like, there's a very clear line, but nobody says what the line is, but everybody knows what the line is. And you're like, I don't know what the line is.
Yeah.
You gotta like hit your head up and you're like, oh, that's where the line is. So like,
yeah. I don't even know what to call it, but you know, it's just there.
Yeah.
I mean, Canada does say that it's not, it says it's welcoming, and I think it is. It says it's not racist, and I think to a fair extent, they're not. But every now and then you're reminded that, okay, there's a facade that is just there. And as an immigrant, you come across it every now and then you have to decide how you want to approach it. I'm just curious, like, you have kids, right?
Yeah.
2?
Biracial kids. 2.
Biracial kids. 2 of them.
Yeah.
How do you handle that, they're biracial, you know, how do you handle that with them? Like,
so they joke that they're like, "Oh, we're just Canadian." I'm like, "Yeah, you are Canadian, but you're half Pakistani and half Chinese." They're like, "No, we're Canadian." I'm like, but they understand. Like, my son is older now; he's 6, so he understands that he has a heritage in Pakistan. We took him to Pakistan, and like, you know, his cousins and his my parents come often, and we try to celebrate Eid. And I'm not particularly religious. So that's something that if I was more religious, I would have that community around a mosque or like, you know, a church or whatever. You have that. Like, my sister is religious. So when she came, they went to the local mosque and people were like, "Oh, you're new to London. Oh, come, let me, you know, invite over for dinner, bring you food to your house." All that stuff that happens because they're all Muslim from Pakistan or Arabs or like that. I'm not, so I have that piece missing, but we have friends and we're more cultural about it. So like, we'll make sure they know about Eid and what Eid is about, and like Chinese New Year and all those festivals. We try to, but it's very hard to like, obviously Christmas is the biggest one, right? Everybody like, so like, it's very hard to have that emphasis on the cultural festivals from our side when the biggest thing that happens is Christmas. And like Christmas is like, everything is Christmas, but like Eid, like there's small pockets of things that happen. But I appreciate that like his school celebrates most of the big festivals. So like they'll be like, oh, today is Eid. We're going to learn about Eid. Today is Chinese New Year. So like I think that's very important for them to grow up with that awareness, which I love.
And staying a bit on that, a bit on the point about them being half Pakistan, half Canadian, half Chinese, but now I'm talking about you. Do you ever get the feeling that you're not fully Pakistan, not fully Canadian,
all the time,
just somewhere in between, just
somewhere in between? Yeah, I'm just somewhere. Sometimes I do have like a bit of like, who am I? Am I Pakistani? I still consider myself Pakistani. Like I never say I'm not like if somebody says, oh yeah, I'm like Pakistan. But I also start to feel more Canadian now because I've been here for a long time. I've settled in. I have a family here. I'm politically aware. I have opinions about different things. So like I am sort of Canadian, but also like I'll follow Pakistani politics and like what's going on in the country. What does the army do now? What happened to Imran Khan? Like, I'm still connected to that piece, but like it's like both are a part of me, and I've come to embrace that. That's who I am. I'm this and that. It's not one. I'm not fully Pakistani. If I was, I wouldn't be able to survive in Canada, to be honest, because like just the mentality you have as a Pakistani is very different than But I'm not fully Canadian either because I was not born here. I didn't grow up here. I don't get a lot of the cultural stuff, but I'm like, this is my home now, and I have to be politically active. I have to make this a better place because this is where my family is going to grow up, and eventually maybe my parents are going to move here and stuff. So like this is home for me now. So this feels like home now, even though like I've been here for long enough that like we kind of feel like settled here. But that's the interesting duality you always have is like, am I Pakistani? Am I Canadian? I'm not Canadian. But like I think there's a perception. I'm going to try and like a lot of my immigrants friends will, when they say somebody's Canadian, they'll mean they're Caucasian. And I always correct them. I'm like, Caucasian is not Canadian. You're Canadian because you're Canadian. Like, don't think Caucasian is Canadian. Like, call them Caucasian or European descent or something. But like a brown person is as much of a Canadian as the next, whatever race person. Like it's not about race. It's about where you feel belonging. And I feel belonging in Canada now. So we went to Pakistan this year in March, and I loved it. It felt like, I felt like home, but a lot of things were also different and uncomfortable for me because I'm not used to them anymore. And like the Pakistan that I grew up in is not there anymore. Like you kind of have this romantic vision of, oh, my childhood, you expect time to stay still, but like people have moved on, the country has moved on. Things have changed. Some things haven't changed, but a lot has changed. So like when you go back, I went back to my parents' house and like this feels familiar, but it also feels different. And the country has changed a lot, and not for the better. The country's changed for the worse. So like that was really hard to like sort of deal with.
I like the point you make about that romantic notion. I mean, because I think we leave the place, we leave out from our place.
Yes,
and
we have that
memory
image of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, back home, it was like, and sometimes back home wasn't that great. Like, there's a reason. Like,
you just miss it.
You just miss the nostalgia. It's like when you have kids, right? You don't remember the sleepless nights and the sleep regression and the big, like, oh man, they were so cute. But like, you don't remember the ugly stuff. Your brain only remembers the good stuff. So I think we have that state of nostalgia. Like I have a friend in Pakistan. He's my close friend. He was also working with me at 42 right now. He was going to Dubai for a work visa thing, and like he had to go get some stamps and stuff. And like I was talking to him, with like, man, this fucking country, like nobody does a straight thing. You always have to like jam into lines, and nobody. I'm like, yeah, like that's not when I think of back home. There's all that ugly stuff that I don't remember, and I don't miss it. Like, I don't want that in my life. Like the basic necessities of life, the electricity. We get power outages every 4 hours. Like you don't miss that stuff. You don't remember that stuff. But like when you think about it, like, yeah, it wasn't that good. It wasn't all that good. There was a lot of ugly stuff that drove me out of the country in the first place.
Almost as if the human mind shuts out all the bad stuff and keeps the good stuff for you.
Absolutely. But like, it's So like I feel more at home here in a way, but a big part of my identity is Pakistan. That's where I was like, my high school, my university. A big chunk of my life was there. But I've been here for long enough that I don't feel like an outsider now, if that makes sense. Like I've been here for 12 years. Like I feel like I'm like pretty, and because we're a biracial family, it's not like, I think this is again a sensitive topic, but like we don't live in like a predominantly Pakistani neighborhood where everybody in our circle is Pakistan. We live in a pretty multicultural neighborhood where there's like people from we have friends from different races, different countries. So like we have that diversity. I think a lot of people, like I know for a fact that some people from that I went to university with in Canada, they wanted to replicate that same thing they had in Pakistan, the good and the bad. I'm like, that's like, no, don't do that. No, like you're in a new country, you have to not forget your values and where you come from, but also appreciate what this country has to offer you.
Exactly.
Like you can't just like stay in your bubble.
Yeah,
and
your bubble. To add to that, I feel like the gift of immigration is that it allows you to take the good parts of your values.
Yes.
And take the good parts of the values or the country you're in and mix them together to create a unique individual, and then pass that on to your kids and say, so this is who we are. Hopefully they take all of it or some of it. But you say, you know what, I'm going to stay in my bubble of I'm from Nigeria, so I have to behave like Nigerians. They're like, oh, you shouldn't have just traveled. You should have left your country. You should just stayed back home, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of immigrants I've seen, especially from South Asia, make that mistake or even from China, where either it's a language barrier or it's a cultural barrier where they don't feel comfortable being around. But you have to be, because you're in a new country, you have to appreciate all that it has to offer you. You can't just like stay in your bubble of other Pakistani people and that's all you do, and you don't try new cuisines or new people or new culture experiences. Like you just eat biryani and like, go try some French food. Go try some poutine. Go try some,
Yeah. Just curious. Have you ever had any overwhelming moments since you moved here? Like when you're like, why did I do this?
Quite a bit. But I'll tell you an interesting story. So when I graduated, I was like homesick. I was like, I'm like, this was great, but I miss home. I want to be back home, go back. And I'd call up my friends and they're like, man, I miss hanging out with you guys. I miss, all that stuff. And they're like, dude, what are you going to do when you come back? Like, there's literally nothing for you in Pakistan right now. There's no job opportunities. The economy is not growing. You already worked at P&G, which is considered the best job you can have in Pakistan. And you left that. Like, that was not for you. Like, if you come back, you go back to the same thing and you're just going to be miserable. Like that for me kind of like clicked. I'm like, okay, I have to make a life for myself here. I can't just like go back because there's a reason I left in the first place and I wanted to have bigger opportunities. And then I went, my wife and I started dating and I'm like, well, you're from China, I'm from Pakistan. I'm not moving to China. You're not moving to Pakistan. So Canada's like probably the only place that can welcome us and we can build a family together. Like there were like, of course there's moments where like, I remember I was, had some big dental thing come up and like I had to pay quite a significant amount of money. I'm like, oh my God, like there's so much money. I'm going to go broke. I don't know. Like I was like, but it works out. Yeah.
I think the last question I have for you, but it's probably a question that has many legs, is parenting here versus parenting back home.
I think pros and cons. Like I was replying to Jay's tweet about parenting. I'm like, parenting here is seen as a solo sport. You don't have a lot of family, or if you do have family, the expectation is the family is not there to babysit your kids. You sort of like, you have to take on the bulk of the responsibility. In Pakistan, it's like the grandparents, the aunts and uncles, everybody kind of shares. Like my mom has a big part to raising my nephews and nieces because they're there to support my sister and my brother and all that. It's a big thing, right? Like when you have kids, like the world kind of turns upside down. Here, it's like you hire help or you send them to daycare or, you just suck it up and you just deal with the shit that brings you. And like you're tired and exhausted and you're just like, why did I have kids in the first place? I'm so tired all the time. Like, I don't know who I am anymore. But I think it's also good because bringing up kids here is like, I think they're exposed to more cultures, they're exposed to more opportunities, they're exposed to more. It's a kinder place. It's more like raising kids in Pakistan. It has its pros with the family stuff, but that's also a con because the family can also bear a lot of pressure on you on how you raise your kids. Oh, why are you raising your kids this way? You should, everybody also has an opinion in how you do things. Here, at least you can do whatever, like you can raise them the way you want them raised them. In Pakistan, you would have a lot of family pressure to raise them in a certain way because that's how you're supposed to raise kids. So I think there's like pros and cons to that. But I think like overall, it's interesting, especially because we're like mixed kids, mixed family, different cultural backgrounds. I'm pretty happy with like my kids understand and appreciate all that about themselves, and they love, like, I think mixed it. I think Canada's the only place where you can have a mixed, like, also human, like, where people don't look at us weird because we're a brown guy with an Asian and mixed kids. Like, it's like, yeah, that's pretty normal. Like, you have mixed kids. If we were in Pakistan, we'd probably like, what is that?
What is that? Like, how did you do that?
Wow, was it? What, everybody would like poke our nose in our business. Like they were like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's like," I'm like, "Yeah, it's like perfectly normal."
No, there's
a lot of stuff, but yeah.
I said to a friend some weeks or months ago that for me, Canada is like one massive experiment in diversity. Yeah, like, because I'm not sure that any other place in the world where you have the amount of different races, kids all growing up together at the same time. You know, brown, black, white, Caucasian, like mixed kids, all of them all just growing up together. And like, I'm like, it's going to be interesting to see how the kind of world or society Canada is in the next 20, 30 years. When all these kids that we have now are now the adults of like, I can't wait to see the world they'll live in. Yeah. Because
I think it'll be a better place. Yeah.
Because it's so different. Like my child's class has Korean, Vietnamese, Pakistan, Indian, Nigerian, Ghanaian, like the mix, Caucasian, the mix is amazing. He had his 7-year-old birthday party, and I'm just looking at all the kids that came to the house, and I'm like, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And I love that about Canada because you can meet somebody from Vietnam and you can have authentic Vietnamese food.
Yes.
Just like they make it back home. And then you can go to a Jamaican place and they'll make you the best Jamaican food you ever had.
Yes.
And then you go to a Pakistani place and they'll make you the best chicken kadhai you ever had. And like, you just get to enjoy the best. Like, I think it's an amazing thing about here. It's like everybody is bringing their culture with them. And it's like, it's just wonderful. I love Canada for that reason.
Yeah,
I do
me
think
too.
Though that there's a debate going on Twitter these days. I don't know if you saw it, but like housing crisis, house prices. And like all these international students that are coming in for like some random degree because the college wants to make money from international students, but they don't have opportunities in the country. Like there's all that. I think that's the negative stuff. I think we should talk about that more, but there's a lot of positive stuff.
Yeah, I agree. The housing crisis is really sad it's sad to watch. And it's sad to watch schools play around with that. Like literally just gets kids in. Hey, we have a degree for you. Come and just pay us and we'll give you a PGWP. But then you come in, you finish school, there's no job.
Yeah.
Like, there's no job. There's no house. Like,
you gotta put a house and you don't have a job and you're just like constantly struggling. Like I've, a couple of my friends from Pakistan have like said, hey, we think of immigrating to Canada. I'm like, I don't know if you should because there's just not opportunity. Like, it seems like there's no opportunities. Like yes, you can go find a job at Tim Hortons, but that's not what you want to be doing. You want to, the economic opportunities seem to be shrinking. Yeah. And I don't think the answer to that is to bring more immigrants in. I'm an immigrant. I'm very pro-immigrant. I'm not saying we should not bring it. Like we should, but we should balance that when they come, they have things. Because if they don't have a house, how are they going to contribute to society when they're just like,
exactly. I agree. I agree to an extent. I agree because for me, I always think about it like, okay, we want more people. Yes, more people means bigger economy. Most markets have, you know how when you look at your TAM, you say, the TAM is now, it's 50 million people. Like that's good to see. Yeah. But if the TAM doesn't have money to spend, then the TAM is not a TAM. The TAM is just people moving around hungry and angry. You know, and it feels like Canada is at that point where they have to decide, do we bring in more people or do we fix the economy? You know.
And develop more cities, because like Toronto, Vancouver, those are two big. What about Nova Scotia? What about Saskatchewan?
Yeah.
Like it's a big land, but the people are concentrated in like very small places.
Yeah.
And then Quebec is there doing their own thing. I don't know what they do. So like
Quebec is a very interesting conversation.
I lived in Montreal for just over a year, and it's a beautiful city, but like it's just like its own little universe of things.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I hear like Quebec is just Canada and there's Quebec.
That's Quebec. Yeah.
So you either live in Canada or you live in Quebec. I mean, even when you apply for certain things, they tell you if you live in Quebec, you get X, Y, Z, and you're like, wait, yo. Is that, are they not part of us or they're not part
It's like all these apply except for Quebec.
Yeah. I'm like, those folks are something else.
They have their own thing going on, yeah. But like I think we have a big land, but our like if I look at the US, there's like so many cities, so many towns, but like in Canada I always feel like like Toronto is a big, like everybody goes to Toronto. And now slowly people are going to Calgary and then Vancouver, but like, what about the rest of Canada?
We
need to develop more of the people and infrastructure and population centers. It's not just concentrated.
It's so wild. Like the other day I was looking at, I forget what I was looking at, but I know that I stumbled across other cities in Alberta. And I was like, wait, we have this many cities in Alberta? Because all I know is Calgary and Edmonton. And then I know Fort McMurray because a friend stays there. But then we have this many cities.
Same with Ontario. I was in Toronto and we started driving across Ontario. I'm like, wait, we have this in Ontario? There's a city called Woodstock in Ontario? I did not know that. Like a really small, beautiful town. But like, nobody's there. Like, it's like a small town and that's it. So I think like we need more people, but we need more people distributed across.
Yeah.
And like make sure we have opportunities for them, because otherwise they're gonna be angry at the system. They're just gonna like get their PR, go back and like, never come back, and they don't contribute to the economy.
Yeah, there's this. I know I've come across this thread where they've said a lot of people get their PR, get their citizenship, and then just move to another country to go and live because they're like Canada is not working out for them.
Yeah,
which is sad to see. Because I think this country has prospects. All right. Thank you so much, Kamil. Like, this was amazing. Thank you for that amazing 45 minutes.
Thank you. It was really good.
Yeah, awesome.